Hello and welcome to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, events, and issues surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. I am Stephen Conway. With me, as always, is Jeremy Finestone. We're contributors to the Fight Game Media Network, and we are here to talk all things New Japan Pro Wrestling. And Jeremy, a new title tournament is underway. We've seen a couple of days of the new TV title action, and so far it has been what we were hoping it would be, something a little different. Differently paced matches. They're working them with that in mind. We're going to go over these results here in a little bit in detail, but just off the top, now that you've seen a couple of days of this, what do you think of this TV tournament so far?
You know, Steven, I'm going to say that if you ever watch WWE Raw, and the viewership that we kind of have here are people that probably watch other wrestling and come into this, I'm going to say these matches are really good TV matches on Raw. You have they're consequential but inconsequential. Like, they don't mean as much as the biggest top level matches, but you have efforts being made by these wrestlers to go 10, 15 minutes hard, giving the high spots, the spots the crowd are going to react to, and they're working for something. So you kind of see them go harder, faster, because they know they're not going longer. And I felt like I saw a different side of a lot of different wrestlers, at least this first round, in terms of the aggressiveness and the speed and the pace in which they wrestle matches, especially ones that are used to going longer and trying to maintain their cardio for a bit more. They can go fast for a very short period of time.
It's been intriguing to me as well, and we talked about it last week. All we want out of this is something different. Just don't have another belt just to have another belt, and title match for have another title match. Do something different with it. The original idea of this, according to the announcement they made in the middle of the ring at Declaration of Power, was that these were going to be faster-paced matches with younger talent. We'll get to that in a second. Younger talent competing for this championship. And again, these matches are going to be title matches once the champion is determined, which will be at the Tokyo Dome on January 4th. These matches will be free on social media, available to everyone. So it's to get something fast-paced and kind of hard-hitting out there quickly, and is to give a showcase to some of the lower on card wrestlers. This is not supposed to be an on-top tournament. They even said the title matches will be in towns that don't normally see title matches. Right. So it's, you mentioned a house show title, like the way they used to do state titles, like Mid-South used to have like the Mississippi state title, the Louisiana state title. It's a house show title, and that's what this might be.
The Texarkana title.
Yeah, yes. And it's intriguing to me that they are doing this, because they said, well, it's going to be about younger people. Half of this field's over 40. It seems like. So in the first couple of days, we've seen Ghetto and Kanemaru and Ishii is coming and all this stuff. So yeah, there's the bracket. So let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at the young wrestlers involved. Now there are a couple.
A few. There's a handful.
Yeah, although not all
generously,
not all of them are still in the tournament. But Yano is not a young man. Ishii is not a young man. Kenta not a young man. Ghetto not a young man. Taiichi and Sanada have been around for a while. So you can make a case for Hinare being fairly young. But there's anyway. Maybe down the road they're going to get to that part, but. There's another side to this too, and you mentioned it last week, Jeremy, is the idea of a title not meaning anything until someone the fans care about holds it. So that could be what they're doing here, is just putting it on somebody that the fans take seriously off the bat, don't you think?
Yeah, if you look at the people that have moved forward so far, you have David Finley, you've got Zack Saber Jr., you've got Yoshi Hashi, and you've got Evil on one side. Now, there are people that are going to argue that Yoshihashi hasn't elevated his game. We are not of that mind. We feel like he is 100% credible, especially since both members of United Empire on that side have been dispatched and leaving Great Okan on the other side yet to go. Then you got Sanada and you got Kenta, and the last four are Ren Narita, Tomohiro Ishii, Toru Yano, and Great Okan. I would love to see Ren Narita move forward, especially with the aggressiveness that he's been shown on New Japan programming in the last month. But if you're reading the room, it sure does feel like it's going to be a Tomohiro Ishii move forward. I don't know, but there's a lot of very well-known names out the gate so far, and I feel like those well-known names are going to continue moving forward, at least for now.
It's been intriguing in that Narita's, the way he's presenting his character is basically a new Katsuyori Shibata. And this match, and the clashes between Narita and Ishii in these preview tags over the last few days have been some of the better parts of those matches. And we're about to get to those in a little bit here. So, but I think that match is a toss-up. I think they might be pushing Narita hard. Ishii's coming off those a couple of big wins in Royal Quest. He's hot. It might be time to put the younger guy over after seeing him built up with a few wins. And of course, they're protecting Narita pretty well during these preview tags, keeping him strong for that match. I'm very much looking forward to it, though. That one could honestly go either way. And looking at this field, there is no real clear favorite at all. So what can we say about it except, they're pretty good matches, pretty fast-paced matches, and we honestly don't know how it's going to go. It's a challenging one to read, so I guess we're entertained by it. I am.
All right, so let's pull the thread on this a little bit. If we are to have a face on the left side go forward, that would leave Yoshi, Hashi, or David Finley.
Mm-hmm.
Zack Saber Jr. is more of a tweener. If it were to be a heel on that side, we're looking at Zack Saber Jr. and Evil. Mm-hmm. Okay. So on the other side, we have Sanada and Kenta. And then the choices could be Ren, Ishii, Toriano, or Great Okan. After you said that, it does seem like there could be a lot of Ren overcoming these great big giants before coming to a halt at the final, thus prolonging his TV title chase going on to it. So I'm going to go with Evil beating Ren Narita in the finals for the title.
Ah, okay. So you're thinking the Evil in the finals. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, that definitely could happen. I kind of see Zack coming out of that side of the bracket. As far as on the other side, I think they might.
I would love Zack. I just feel like they have a thing for Evil that he's higher up than he is. There's just that permeating vibe that I get. But I'm with you. I would love to see Zack.
And I'm really honestly torn between Narita and Sanada on that other side. I really am. I don't know how hard they're going to push Narita. That's the question that we're going to answer in this tournament a little bit, because, for instance, the previous young lion to really debut was before him was Okan came in 2 years ago and attacked Okada, so they brought him in. Mm-hmm. And his career has been strong. It's been good. They brought him in right on top. He attacked Okada. Wata was the other way around. His first match was against Doki, and nothing wrong with Doki. I think Doki is a very underrated worker, but Doki is the guy in Suzuki-gun that protects the others by doing the jobs. And that's where they slotted Wado, and Wado's kind of hovered in that spot. Although he did get his first win over Doki, and he won that first match, but he's been kind of he might win, might lose kind of guy for a long time.
Sure.
And Narita feels a little bit higher up than that. But, I mean, if he loses to Ishii in the first round, then maybe not.
No one would care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, no one would lose any sleep if he lost to Ishii in the first round.
Yeah.
But his momentum is all about getting close and being shown that he can get to the pedestal. But if he doesn't reach it right now, the money would be in the chase after that.
Fair enough.
So you could go if you go with him, you go all the way, or you go near the way. If you don't have that plan to really just get him high into this tournament, there's no point in doing it at all. It's all or nothing kind of thing.
Yeah, have a great match against Ishii and lose, or go all the way to the finals there. I think that's it. I mean, losing in the semifinals is about 6 of one, half a dozen the other for him. So
100%.
Okay, so should we go over these shows here? We've got Autumn Attack 2022, and we're going to talk about Royal Quest, which finally appeared on New Japan World after a long wait. When I was joking about this with a friend of mine this week. When I was in college, I was a tape trader, and I remember getting the Triple Crown title change, Kenta Kobashi beating Akira Taue for the Triple Crown, and I had it within 3 weeks, Jeremy, and that was pretty hot stuff around the campus right there. I had this match from Japan on VHS, by God, within 3 weeks. Now, if I have to go 10 days without seeing a show, I'm pulling my hair out and complaining on YouTube. So it's a bit of a different world. But we finally get to see it. We're going to talk about Royal Quest. Of course, we've already been over the results last week, but we got to see some of these matches. And those folks in England got a heck of a good show. And then, Autumn Attack began over here. So it's been a busy time for New Japan in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, all of a sudden we went from the drought of content and you and I tried to figure out how we're going to make a show out of nothing to how are we going to make a show how are we going to get all this into one show?
Yeah, and we're not going to be able to go over match by match because we just don't have time for this one. We've got a lot of stuff, but we're going to get to it, and we're going to go start with Korakuen Hall, which is the home base of New Japan, if ever there was one there. Korakuen Hall, of course, it is for all of Japanese wrestling. Everybody runs shows there. But on the 14th, they were there with only 608 paid. So, but it was the opening of the TV title tournament. I'm sure they were a little bit disappointed with that. But nevertheless, some good stuff on here. Those two shows, though, at Korakuen that started this on the 14th and the 15th, these weren't the best shows that New Japan's put on the last few months. But we'll get to some of that. The show on not
the songs on the CD that are getting you to buy the whole album.
Yeah. We opened with a decent one. It was Narita and Ryohei Oiwa defeating Tomohiro Ishii and Yuto Nakajima. All of this is about setting up that TV title first rounder between Narita and Ishii. And that stuff looks terrific. And Narita is playing this Shibata character to a T. He's not afraid of anyone. He's pissed off at everybody. A lot of his post-match comments are that he's just not impressed with anyone. He just has that whole kind of attitude going, and he got the win there. That was Narita beating Nakashima, and they're just putting over Narita like gangbusters here. Like the whole thing is he doesn't take any losses. He usually gets the win when his team wins. This is all about letting them know that this guy is someone to take seriously. So just a quick thing.
Aggressive about it.
He's very aggressive. Yeah, he's approaching it very aggressively. So the next match was Makabe Honma, Tomoaki Honma, Master Wato, and Rocky Romero back in on the New Japan cards, defeating the Suzuki-gun group of Taiichi, El Desperado, Takamichinoku, and Doki. Wato versus Desperado was the focus. Of course, those two are involved in the junior four-way at the Tokyo Dome. So that was the preview there. Let's see. We also had the House of Torture, Evil, Yujiro Takahashi, Sho, and Dick Togo. Dick Togo getting a rare victory here. Tenzan, Hikuleo, Ryusuke Taguchi, and Jado there. They had to hit Jado with a wrench, though, to get him into pimp juice for Yujiro Takahashi. So, we're just moving through these basic preview tags to start this show. And the first thing here that I want to mention is match 4. Now, it was Hirokigoto, Toru Yano, and Yoshihashi defeating the United Empire, that being Great Khan, Jeff Cobb, and Aaron Hinare. And the only thing I really wanted to mention out of this, the match was fine. It was exactly what you would think it was. Those are 6 capable workers. But before the match, Great Khan did Kitamura's entrance. Basically, he did his pre-match thing as he was introduced. Of course, Katsuya Kitamura, we're going to talk about him a little bit later, a former New Japan young lion and what everyone assumed was a big future star, passed away way too young at the age of 36. He was one of Okan's contemporaries in the young lion program, and as he was introduced as Great Okan, he basically did Kitamura's introduction routine, basically, doing the big jumps, his entrance, his big jumps up and down. He did the whole, the yell that he used to do as he was introduced, because the Kitamura was kind of known for his fire and things. And so
he seemed like the guy to be the one to do that. He seemed like an appropriate choice.
Yeah, and but I thought that was very nice. I thought it was heartfelt, and we're going to get into how Tomoaki Oka, and the Great Okan, and Kitamura were kind of tied together through a lot of that period there. So I'm sure that loss hit him pretty hard. Next match, Jeremy, LIJ. This is Naito, Bushi, and Titan defeated TJP, Akira, Francesco Akira, and Gideon Gray. Now, of course, Gideon Gray did the job in this one, but this one was fun for the most part. It's all about getting Titan over, and I think they might have something with this Bushi Titan team.
Yeah, they have shot up the ranks as the team to challenge TJP and Francisco Akira for the titles. I see them doing very, very well in their tag league tournament that they're going to potentially be in. It sure seems like that is the direction that I am assuming and reading tea leaves as we go forward. They do have a lot of momentum with Titan. It seems like there is a lot of momentum for LIJ right now across the board. They are the stable getting the most attention, and they've got Naito in the hot seat. They got Shingo in a hot feud. They got Titan that just returned. I saw that. They have Titan, and then they have Hiromu Takahashi in a title match. So, we talked about Chaos being on a downswing. We talked about Bullet Club kind of being in the driver's seat. Now you got LIJ kind of catching on everybody's heels, and there's definitely something for everybody in terms of what LIJ has in their stablemate.
You're right, and Titan seems to fit in really well. And this is a guy that was a Technico in Mexican wrestling, so he was a good guy. And this whole heel-ish persona, I mean, LIJ aren't heel, but they're heels people like instead of real true traditional baby faces. But he fits in really well. Like, his working style seems to be meshing well. His attitude, his expressions, his body language fits in with LIJ. It's been a good fit. It was a strong one. And he and Bushi really seem to have good chemistry. And of course, they are going back and forth with TJP. It all set up something that happened the next night as well with them. So I'm looking forward to this. I think Titan is a nice addition, and certainly he's a talented guy. I mean, if you do get to watch him from Arena Mexico, he's been part of New Japan tours before,
right?
The Fantasticomania and things. So he's no stranger to it. And I think we're in for some really good stuff when these four get in, and it's going to really help Bushi because, like last year with Hiromu, not having a junior tag team partner. Shingo went up to the heavyweight division pretty quickly. Hiromu was a single star. Bushi was just kind of left hanging in the wind as the one guy to do jobs for LIJ. And now he's got a legitimate tag team partner that can have exciting matches. So it's going to be good for him, I think, and he deserves it.
Yeah, no, everything about it is going to be really interesting. His home base in Mexico, my understanding is he's a pure babyface over there. So that's going to be really interesting to see what happens next in terms of what this character development does. Does he become more of a roguelike babyface?
Yeah.
Does he become more heelish? A lot of that is going to be really, really interesting to play out. We saw immediate stuff with Ace Austin over an Impact when he joined Bullet Club. So that'll be really fun. It's fun to see the shockwaves of something like that happen in wrestling and it affect outwardly into other promotions. So I'm really interested.
And there is a new Ingobernables faction in CMLL. Now, the original Los Ingobernables were now Andrade, when he was La Sombra, Rush, and those guys, Bestia del Ring, all those guys have left CMLL and are now persona non grata there because of the way CMLL handles things. You don't get to go back, allegedly. I mean, sometimes people do, but they have put the Ingobernables faction back together with new people, but Titan's not a member of them, or is he? So I guess that's the kind of thing we're going to find out is if Titan does rejoin him. So we'll see how that goes. And speaking of Bullet Club, they were in the next one. This is Kenta, Taiji Ishimori, and El Fantasmo. They defeated another group of LIJ guys. This is Shingo Takagi, Sanada, and Hiromu Takahashi by disqualification. And we've had some DQ work, which is very rare in New Japan indeed, because if you watch these matches, it's hard to imagine any way you could get disqualified in New Japan, but they managed. This is one other thing that was mentioned here, Jeremy, I thought was interesting. Through no fault of Taiji Ishimori's, he's about to go the longest period in the history of the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title without a defense. He last defended the title in June. He's not going to until the Tokyo Dome.
I thought it was July or June because of the G1. They shut it down. So
they did.
Wait. It's not on in New Japan or in Japan, because I thought he did a title defense on New Japan Strong against Alan Angels.
Okay.
Maybe like a month ago. But I don't
maybe in Japan.
But I don't remember. But I definitely have not seen a Taiji Ishimori match for the title in Japan since Kushida returned in June. And cool, nice 7-month layover.
Nice, yeah. And of course, the story was that he was trying to avoid putting the title on the line against Kushida because he was afraid of Kushida, and was disguising that with a series of trials for Kushida to pass. He kept putting obstacles in front of Kushida, trying to avoid defending the title against him. That was the story they were telling there with that. Well, then Kushida had that hand, foot, mouth disease, and it's taking him a while to recover, and he's basically lost his spot. So, you know,
and Ishimori won the title before Jay White won his, right? Or did they win it on the same night? I think he won it a little bit before.
I think before. I think it was before, but I'm not. Yeah. It's a fair question. So, you know, this was. So anyway, it's been a long time, and now they're going to do this 4-way and things at the. But it is interesting because, I mean, this was not the way it was supposed to be. He was supposed to have defended it a couple of times. Things keep tripping up. Ishimori keeps losing his title matches, and I'm sure, you know, like Ishimori would just like, well, I'd like to be in the spotlight a little bit. The poor guy, he keeps ending up in just this endless series of preview tags as they keep building.
Man, every time he's doing it on his own, he is just banger after banger. I know that's the hashtag. Like, he is just putting out great matches. I think he knows that it's going to be another 2 months before he has another one, so he can just, you know, go all out, let his body heal up.
I feel bad for the guy. He's so talented. So he really does deserve to be in like a semifinal or a main event type of thing, and he just can't get there because, you know, okay, now he's got 3 opponents. They can't all get hurt, right? I mean, not all of them, right? We'll find out. But anyway, this one happened. Let's go over this one. There was a lot of punching in this one, a lot of punching each other, and it didn't really work that well. It wasn't that great. But Marty Asami took a bump. It's been a rough weekend for Marty Asami, by the way. We're going to get to all that. So ELP, El Phantasmo, punches Shingo low. Marty is out, shaken up. There's a chair in the ring because it's Bullet Club. ELP fakes the chair shot. The chair goes to Shingo Takagi. ELP lays out like he's been hit with the chair. Asami believes him. Now, this is interesting because you can hit somebody with a chair right in front of a referee in New Japan. They don't disqualify you. But if the referee thinks you may have hit someone with a chair behind their back, so it's not so much that the chair usage, it's that the referee is pissed off that he didn't get to see it.
Yeah, it's a trust factor. Like, you couldn't do it in front of me. Like, you don't have the fortitude to do it.
That's it.
Come on.
And that's apparently the line. They draw the line right there at cowardice, doggone it. If you're going to hit somebody with a chair, you do it right in front of my face. That's just some weird New Japan psychology right there.
Stab me in the face, not stab me in the back.
You go. So anyway, this was a bit off. I have it in my notes. I didn't think this match worked. Did you?
A lot of these lower level matches did not feel like they had a whole lot going for them. It's hard for me to even just like talk about them afterwards because these shows were really like 2-match shows. And
fair enough.
So they're all being set up for other stuff, and they're means to an end matches. None of them really did anything for me, but at the same time, they are leading to important things coming forward. So it's kind of like, how much of the comic book do you want to read to make sure you know every detail before you read the main story? We're at the annexes right now, basically going into the big stuff.
There you have it. All right, so we will go into the 2 matches that were the main point of these, and that's the beginning of the television title tournament. Now, we talked about some of these results earlier. So David Finlay defeated Yoshinobu Kanemaru. Now, if you watched the show last week, look, I have screenshots, didn't I?
I saw it with my own eyes. I saw it with my own eyes.
They had Shingo Takagi in that spot. I was looking at it. I sent it to Jeremy. I just said, and because he sent that bracket, the same one that we had up on the screen a little while ago, and he's right. That's what was up there. I looked at that individual card on New Japan, and they had Takagi in there. I sent that to Jeremy. I promise I am neither an idiot nor crazy. Well, I can't promise the second one, but I'm not an idiot, and this is what it said.
I am going to tell you, when you go to the official resource of New Japan Pro Wrestling and they have an official match listing and somebody clicked the wrong box for the wrong graphic, and that was all it took. And it was all it took to go onto a YouTube show watched by hundreds and hundreds of people, only to find out that, oops, he goofed. It takes a real man to admit it. I was going to go right past this whole thing. But I appreciate you, Steven.
Tens of people.
Kanemaru.
Tens of people were misinformed by me. It was Yoshinobu Kanemaru who lost to David Finley in a really good match, by the way. I really enjoyed this one. It went 11 minutes and 52 seconds. Then the second match, the main event of the night, was Zack Saber Jr. and Alex Zane, who was coming back. We haven't seen the sauce for a while there, and it was good to see him again. And he had a terrific match with Zack, which is not a surprise at all. Thing I like about this one, 2 different times. They mentioned that there's a 15-minute time limit. There's no overtime. There's no rematches. What they're going to do is flip a coin if it goes the 15-minute time limit. They have teased the living hell out of us with this. We've had 4 matches in this tournament. And, the first 4 matches of the tournament, 2 of them went more than 14 minutes and 55 seconds. So they're teasing us.
Great O'Con and Toru Yano could end in a coin flip. It would be the ultimate joke of the Toru Yano match going 15 minutes and ending with a coin flip, and it being a pick'em of who ends up going the next round against Ren or Ishii. I swear to you, it could happen. It would be the ultimate troll. I don't think it'll happen. But God, it would be hilarious if they had Toru Yano and Great O'Con go 15 minutes.
But I do like that they teased it.
Yes. I'm sorry for making you choke laugh right there. It brings me joy that we could think and dream of 15 minutes of pure Toru Yano shenanigans.
Man, oh man. I announced the wrong name on the air once, and he tortures me about with Yano matches for a while. So there we go.
You know what I'm all about.
Boy. All right. So that was the first night. Now we're back at Korakuen the next day. And this one now, the show, like I said, only drew 608. That one did. And you could see it. Like they had, they dropped the big screens on the camera side to cover up that one section there with the bleachers. And they only had half the bleachers and the big New Japan logo. The next night, everyone was back. 1,150. Which isn't packed at all, but it's certainly more than double the crowd from the day before. And they were there to see not a great show, but they saw a really bad night for the United Empire, who went over, I believe, in this one. This was just a rough night for UE. Let's see. Now, it started off with Taiichi and Takamichinoku beating Kenta and Ghetto. The only interesting thing about this match was Ghetto lost to the Ghetto clutch. He gave it to Taiichi years and years ago. Taichi's been using it for a long time, and he pinned Ghetto with the Ghetto clutch. That's that is an unselfish booker right there. Not only do you book yourself to lose, but you book yourself to lose to your own finishing move right there. So
that is a guy who sees an end in his own career sight.
Now it's just something that I think really there's a tradition of this in New Japan actually, because when Jushin Liger took over the book of the junior heavyweight division, one of the first things he did was they were doing this Super J Cup where they had, get this, 8 different junior heavyweight champions in a tournament where the titles were on the line. So there was going to be if they got all these companies to agree to this, there was going to be a unified junior heavyweight champion. Someone's going to hold 8 belts at the end of this. Someone did. And so they went through. It was great Sasuke, by the way. And the first thing Liger did was book himself to lose in the first round by flash pin in like 3 minutes. And that was one of the first things he booked himself to do once he got the junior heavyweight book. Hiroshi Hase, when Hase would take over the book in the heavyweight division, one of the first things he'd do was move himself down the card. And so there is a bit of a history of active wrestlers being visibly unselfish. And I think it might just be a signal to the rest of the guys, like, look, I'm not here to just put myself over. Same cannot be said of Riki Choshu, by the way. But Choshu was a big star, so it's difficult to argue. And certainly when Antonio Inoki was the booker, he wasn't doing very many jobs.
If you're that good and you can put yourself down the card, you'll still end up back up on the card.
Hase always did, by the way. Like, one of the first things everybody else did once they got the book away from Hase was saying, okay, that was cute. You're going to start winning now because you're really good. So,
no,
anyway.
You win.
We appreciate the efforts, but you're really good. We're going to put you back up there. But you want, drag you kicking and screaming into the main event. Anyway, the next match was Chaos with Goto, Ishii, and Toru Yano. They defeated Makabe, Tomoaki Honma, and Ren Narita. This one was, again, a post-match brawl with Ishii and Narita that involved them just continuing to just fight each other all through the aisles, and they chased each other up into the dressing room area. So this one was all about just getting that over. And my favorite line of this one was Chris Charlton, who said that Ren Narita's had a bad attitude for a while. He was born on the wrong side of the bassinet.
Wow,
it's pretty strong stuff.
What kind of words would you say to a young man like that? Like, you're asking for it. If you get set straight, this is a boy taught to be a man by Shibata.
Yeah, I know.
Shibata. What is wrong with you?
Yeah, man.
What is wrong with you?
Do not.
Those are words you may eat.
You might. If they ever did an angle with Chris Charlton, I don't think so. Okay, up next we had David Finlay, Tiger Mask, Master Wato, and Alex Zane defeating Suzuki-gun. That was Zack Saber Jr., El Desperado, Kanemaru, and Doki. You can guess who did the job there. It was Doki, in case you wouldn't.
Doki time!
Again, more Desperado and Wato on one side, and then, of course, Finlay, and because Finlay and Zack Saber Jr. won their first round matches, they were in a preview tag here. And not much to add to that one. It's just, you got that group. Tiger Mask, by the way, back after being in All Japan for a little while. He toured with All Japan, won and lost their junior heavyweight title. So Tiger Mask has been away but not inactive. Up next, House of Torture. That was Yujiro Takahashi and Sho defeated Hikuleo and Jado. That match was a struggle. This one didn't go so good. It's a lot of Yujiro and a lot of Jado, and that's not a recipe for a real great match. But again, they were protecting Hikuleo there. So then we had LIJ. This is Naito, Sonata, Bushi, and Titan against the Great Okan, TJP, Francesco Akira, and Gideon Gray. This match was excellent. This was a really good one. Titan and Bushi are getting their finishing move over, and that's a combination of the MX, which is, of course, like the lung blower that Bushi uses, except he holds the guy in place instead of just having him bounce off of it. And then Titan springboards to the top rope and does the double foot stomp. So it's a bit of a MX and coup de grace type of combo. Looks pretty good. I hope Titan doesn't injure his ankles doing that one because he's not landing on a flat surface, but he's a hell of an athlete. I'm sure he's got this covered. And again, just another clash between the junior heavyweight champions and this new team that they're building up. So good stuff, though. This was a good match.
This is 100% been just LIJ keeping this tour on their backs for all intents and purposes. If you're talking about a fantastic match on this tour so far, dollars to donuts, a member of LIJ somehow involved.
Yeah, they've really been strong. This has been a really good one for them. And now the next match, gotta say, this one was not good. It was Shingo Takagi and Hiromu Takahashi against Taiji Ishimori and El Phantasmo. How is this match not good? Somehow they managed. It only went 8 minutes and 47 seconds. I understand, again, long-term storytelling. This is what they're doing. That this match wasn't about being a great match. It was about leading to something else. So in all fairness to the four guys, after the Who's Your Daddy match that they had for the King of Pro Wrestling provisional title, the one where if you lost, you had to get on the microphone and say, "You're my daddy." And of course, El Phantasmo was properly humiliated, but he wants his revenge. What he did here was he brought in the aluminum trash cans. Now these, for the last 10 years, Jeremy, I think the only people in the world that have these are professional wrestling companies. I don't think these exist outside of professional wrestling. And I think these aluminum trash can companies, if pro wrestling ever moved away from this, I'm pretty sure they go bankrupt. Nobody has these anymore except pro wrestling companies.
Actually, I'm pretty sure this is why Rob Van Dam still makes money. It's because he has a company that produces these aluminum trash cans, and everyone goes through him for it. Because every Van Daminator that I ever saw looked better with a aluminum trash can, and he knows how to make that money.
They make a hell of a racket, and they don't hurt that much when you get hit with them. It's the cookie sheet concept, but it's so it makes a noise, and but seriously, it's ridiculous, and it's the only place you ever see them is in pro wrestling shows. They brought all this shit in the ring, and the crowd died a death right here. I mean, like normally, now this is not a cheering crowd. We had one of those on Sunday. We'll talk about that. The crowd at Korakuen Hall didn't clap for this, didn't stomp for this. It was met with silence from this group of people, and the crowd died off. It was a DQ when Phantasmo just smacked Kenta Sato over the head with the can lid, and that's enough to get DQ'd. So we had a DQ for the second night in a row. They have all this crap in the ring. There's trash cans, there's lids, there's all this stuff, and the purpose of all this was in leaving the ringside area. Of course, you don't get promo time in New Japan, particularly. You do in the post-match comments, but on the show, only the winner of the main event gets to talk, usually. It's unusual for anyone else to take the microphone. He didn't take the microphone, but he made it very clear that he wants a New York City street fight at Rumble on 44th Street. So that is his... excellent. Look at that cue. There it is. So that is El Phantasmo's rule. And of course, with these KOPW matches, Jeremy, they have a fan vote. And each wrestler kind of brings their own stipulation. So Shingo's rules, last daddy standing. That's basically a Texas death match. It's a Texas death match rules right there. And then Phantasmo's rule is the street fight, weapons match, basically the same type of thing you see on every WWE and AEW show where you can just hit each other with everything for a while. So there you have it. Well, the question at the bottom, Jeremy, which one would you rather see here?
They're the same match.
Well, the one that involves a 10 count for a knockout. Totally different.
I would do El Phantasmo's rules because I would like to see a pinfall.
Yeah. They're almost certainly going to, right? I mean, you don't have a show in New York City offer up a New York City street fight and then not do it, right?
Yeah, so I think New York City street fight is kind of Rumble on 44th. They're leading very heavily towards even the way that tweet is phrased.
Yes,
makes you want to see El Phantasmo's rules, which is interesting because you think Shingo, like, I want to vote for Shingo, whatever Shingo wants. But I don't want to see that match. I would like to see a street fight. I'd like to see them both in jeans and boots and a t-shirt and just going hard with trash cans and lids. And no, actually, I don't want to see any of that. But I would like to see as close to a professional wrestling match that isn't garbage from these two as much as possible.
Yeah, I just feel like they're really dumbing down El Phantasmo and Shingo Takagi right here. This is the kind of stuff that the half-talented guys on AEW and WWE like to do to cover up the fact that they're not that good. Is just let's just hit each other with shit. These two are really good, and they don't have to do it, but I think that's what we're going to get. So
I mean, they're catering to an extreme crowd in October in New York City. They're not going for the Japanese crowd.
No, they're not. I know.
Like, it would be important and incumbent upon New Japan to keep these shows as close to traditional New Japan as possible. But at the same time, I understand why New Japan feels compelled to deliver a more Western-based version of their product. It's kind of a hand-in-hand thing that I see why. I don't necessarily agree with that approach, but they're rebuilding their stateside audience, and everything is predicated of getting people to talk about them so they deliver on the next big show. They don't want to have a huge match that nobody ends up watching. Like they're building towards something bigger. And I hope that what they end up building domestically with the New Japan product is greater than what we're going to see at Rumble on 44th. But so far, I'm feeling pretty good about what we see.
Yeah, I mean, when I went to a New Japan show in Dallas, I went to the G1 match there, the G1 opening night there. And for me, and I feel like for that crowd, and maybe New York City is going to be different, but I felt like what you're going to a New Japan show, you wanted the authentic New Japan experience.
Yes.
I didn't want them to Americanize it. I can
Yes,
get
I
American
agree.
wrestling anywhere all the time, and it's and good American wrestling. This is me crapping on American wrestling, but when you go to a New Japan show, that's what you want to see. You want to see their version of pro wrestling, and you want to see them do it their way. That's just my thought on it on that. So
Yes.
I don't know. Don't need to American.
I think we're on the same page here. There's a traditional aspect that they want that you should be leaning more toward, not the sensationalized Western aspect that they're not known for.
Right. And it's obvious they don't do a lot of that particularly well. So it's, that's stick with your strengths, guys. Come on. Now we had the next two matches in the World Television Title Tournament. So this one was Evil defeating Aaron Hinare. This was a match that, as matches go, this was one of them. The lights went out. They came back up. Everybody was knocked out. Hinare no-sold the chair spot. Evil ran him into the exposed turnbuckle, though, and ended up getting the victory. So that was the usual House of Torture chicanery. And so that moved him on. And then the upset special, right? I mean, this was Jeff Cobb and Yoshi Hashi, and you would expect that this would end in a tour of the islands, but Yoshi Hashi kept countering it and countering it and countering it. And in what I thought was a clever finish, Jeremy, he got Cobb up, who's massive, in the karma position, basically, but turned it into an inside cradle, which could credibly be passed off as whatever Cobb was ready for. It wasn't that. And he got caught with a 3 count. And,
used his own momentum against him.
Well, we've talked about how Yoshihashi, they've been giving him a little bit more steam. He and Ghetto won the tag team tournament last year. And then they won the tag team titles at Wrestle Kingdom. They've had a good, long, never open weight 6-man run in the midst of all that over the course of 2022. So Yoshihashi, didn't have a great G1 as far as results go, but he had a good G1 in terms of his matches. I feel like they just keep trying to give us a little bit more Yoshihashi and move him up just step by, almost half step by half step, rather than a big, huge push. But this is another step, and I thought it was a really good match. These two work well together. I think it's kind of underrated in that respect, too. Their tag team matches were good. This match was good.
For heaven's sakes, how many matches have they had with each other this year? If they're not able at this point to do 10, 15 minutes together and make it look good, then we have seriously overvalued the talent of both of these wrestlers. This is what it is. It's a sprint. It's a best of. Show us what you got. You don't need to let anything breathe. Like, be in good shape. Do the matches. I really enjoyed the Aaron Hinare chair shot. I was like,
yeah,
sure,
that was good.
Sure. I enjoyed that. And the match between Cobb and Yoshihashi, it was like, yeah, that's exactly what a sprint match should be between those two. And I agree with you. I think the right man won this one.
Yeah, it does add a little bit of a layer, and the more you can take Yoshihashi seriously, I think the better. It's just another guy that you can have in there and have a good match and have the outcome be in doubt. Because I would say 2 years ago, this would have been I think the crowd would have just been waiting for the Jeff Cobb victory here, and now there's a little bit of doubt planted, which is good.
Yeah.
Moved on to Nagaoka, we had a cheering crowd again, Jeremy. This was fun. 1,545 folks showed up for this one, and I was intrigued going into this because I wanted to hear the reactions to some of these new guys that were there. So we had guys like Ren Narita, Hikuleo, T-Tom, their first matches back with a cheering crowd. So applause is one thing, and you can hear it, and you can hear it. It's audible and things, but there's something different about when they can really belt out their opinions. So I was curious to see how these guys were going to do. And Hikuleo, Titan, Ren Narita. It sounds like the fans are excited about the new folks.
Yeah, there's been a lot of sameness in the cards of New Japan, especially going probably the last 24 months, if you really want to think about it. It's because of the lockdowns and the talent. You were really seeing a lot of the same guys. And then we went through a phase within that 24 months where you were getting reintroduced to guys that had already been there for a very long time. The Jay White reintegration, the Bullet Club, that kind of thing. Now you're at a point where all that stuff, the concrete has been mixed, the foundation has been set, and now you have this opportunity for the next level of advancement. And, you know, we talked probably 10, 15 episodes ago about the New Japan 2.0 initiative, about some of these guys like going from Young Lion and developing their personality quicker. And it feels like we're starting to see that momentum shift where the next level of the Hikuleo, the Ren Narita, the Yota Tsuji, the Shota Umino, these guys are no longer just hamstrung by what the process was before. There seems to be a very clear initiative, and the fans are responding accordingly to the elevated level of rising up the card.
And this match, this card was mostly the preview tags, and we've gone over kind of the important points of them. So we're going to skip over most of this stuff and go right to the couple of things I wanted to note, though. After the a really good LIJ, again, like you mentioned it, they're carrying this tour. But Naito, Bushi, and Titan over the United Empire, that was Hinare, TJP, and Akira. I thought it was interesting because this time there was a challenge issued in the ring. Titan got the microphone, challenged them to a junior heavyweight tag team title match. Looks like that's going to happen eventually here. And the only thing that was interesting about this is the promo afterwards was in English, Spanish, Italian, and Japanese, all spoken during this whole thing, because Akira screamed about it in Italian. You had Bushi speaking Japanese, you had Titan in Spanish, and then TJP in English. So, this is a multilingual promo here. I think that might be some kind of record. I bet it at least tied it, if not said it. I'm
kind of upset that TJP didn't speak any Portuguese either.
Yeah, he should have. Yeah, I don't know if does he speak Portugueze? Maybe
I believe he. I believe that's his nativity.
Well, there you have it.
So I think he's got that. If I'm wrong, I apologize.
I bet there have not been too many quadlingual wrestling promos in history.
Not that I can think of.
We went on to the title tournament after that. Kenta defeated Hirokigoto. They wrestled this thing like the time limit was of concern to both of them. Marty Asami took a bump. Again, rough weekend for the referees here. Kenta brought a chair in. Goto got it away from him. Marty Asami wakes up. Goto had the chair. He was threatening, and you were worried that they were going to do the same finish that they did with Shingo and TJP. Didn't do that. Goto dropped the chair. He's a babyface, by God. He's not going to use the thing. Marty Asami goes to remove the chair from the ring, misses the shot to the nuts from Kenta to Goto. And then he does the feet on the ropes to the pinfall, and Marty catches it, which I thought was a nice touch. They didn't just go right to the finish after that. So they, after Marty looked incompetent, they gave Marty a little bit of something there where he looked like looked like a good referee again. Kenta somehow got busted open on something here too. He was bleeding, but he did end up getting the GTS and won it. Terrific match. Not long, only 9 minutes 32 seconds, but like you said, a sprint. And but overall, it was good. And Kenta moves on.
These two matches in this tournament were my favorite two matches, or my favorite tournament matches of evening. Like, if we're going to pick a night so far, this was my favorite night of tournament play between this and the Taiichi Sonata. There was a lot of consequence. There was a lot of character work. There was a lot of work just being done to elevate the tournament just by the presence and the work being done in there. I just felt like the tournament felt more important after this evening's worth of matches.
And the main event led right into that. And you're right. This is a matchup that's always fun. It's Sonata and Taiichi. And of course, Taiichi got it over, brought Miho Abe out. So, it's a big deal. So she was out there with him. They did the pec popping thing at the beginning. Then they did the push-up challenge, but we only have 15 minutes. So what did Taiichi do? He pops up out of the push-up challenge and does the Ghetto clutch suddenly to Sonata. Sonata's, yes, sneaky little bastard. And they went into a whole sequence. Sonata tried his classic roll-up, and you have to kind of take that seriously. They've done some quick finishes with that. Anyway, these two work together great. We've talked about it before. They went full speed here to try to get in under that 15-minute limit. They had a terrific rolling sequence in the end where it's, those classic Sonata things he does often with Zack Saber Jr., where it's just pin into pin into pin into pin. Sonata got the win at 14 minutes and 57 seconds, 3 mere seconds away from that.
I missed that part because I was watching in Japanese.
I
didn't realize,
Yeah.
I'd watched it before they'd done the English commentary one and gone
too.
up. And I was like, this is going a while. And I didn't realize that it was going all the way up 14:57. We almost got a coin flip.
Yeah, we had 6 matches. 2 of them go more than 14:55. No coin flip. So they're playing with fire right there. Maybe we'll get one before the end of this thing. But that was
Toriano coin flip. Give it to me. Give it to me.
That sets up Kenta and Sonata in the next round. So good stuff. And again, they talked about how much they liked each other afterwards in the post-match comments. So good stuff. And we'll move on to the next round of it. And I guess it's the 26th is when the next 2 matches in the tournament come up. So with that, I wanted to get your thoughts, Jeremy, on Royal Quest. Again, we talked about how these shows popped up on New Japan World at last. Chris Charlton and Kevin Kelly did voiceover work on them in between house shows there and on the tour and the Autumn Attack tour. The first thing you have to talk about is, and there are plenty of things, but the first thing you have to talk about is that tag team title match. Aussie Open and FTR, we had heard it was good. We assumed it was going to be good. We were looking forward to the match. Still, somehow they managed to exceed what were very high expectations. That match was fantastic. I loved every second. And I am in the tank for FTR. I'm very open about that. I think they're the best tag team in the world. I think they've been the best tag team in the world since they formed, basically. And I don't think I need to prove it anymore. They've proven it themselves this year. Aussie Open are talented little bastards. That guy, they were so good in this match, Jeremy. I love this thing. It was a combination of old school psychology mixed with all the modern moves and things, and it flowed. It had a rhythm to it. It just had comeback after comeback, near fall after near fall, but in a way that made sense, not just for the sake of doing it. Fantastic stuff. This is one of the best tag team matches of the year.
I must have warmed your little heart when I showed you that title thing that asked Match of the Year candidate at Royal Quest 2.
Made me very happy.
It was a tremendous match. Here's the deal. FTR and Aussie Open have been on a trajectory as the 2 best tag teams in the world, without question, for the entirety of this year. If you've been watching us, or you've been watching Strong, you've been watching New Japan, you've known Aussie Open is something special. Kyle Davis and Mark Fletcher. There's an aspect of you don't know where they came from. Like out of nowhere, these guys just shot out of the clouds, and now you can't take your eyes off of them. And they also had another match on New Japan Strong this week that I got Rick rooted on as well. So that's been happening more and more and more and more. True. But FTR, this is the best match they've had this year. And I don't want to take anything away from the Briscoes matches.
Yeah. But
this felt bigger and better, and it had momentum for the future. When I watched the Briscoes and FTR, it felt like checking off a box to make sure it happened before it was too late. When I watch this match, I think about the future. And okay. I think about the fact that these are 2 teams. One of them is in the prime, kind of heading toward the other end of it, but probably going to be around for a very long time. And then you got this other team that's just like, they are climbing rapidly up the ladder in their careers at a very young age and will be around for a while. They may not be a tag team forever. They might go do their own things, but this is a very special lightning in a bottle match that I don't think we're going to get this kind of energy anytime in the future between 2 tag teams.
Just about every tag team match does some kind of heat leading to a hot tag of some sort. Almost every tag team match does that. This one did it better than any I have seen in so long. And just the idea of, the Cash Wheeler was just getting beaten on, and he would come within inches so close, and they had 10 different ways for him to not be able to tag Dax at the last second. Either he would get pulled off the apron, or he would get pulled back at the last second, or they would cut him off. And by the time he did finally get that tag, the place just went berserk, like it was, we're going all the way back to Asheville, North Carolina, where Dax is from, and you're watching the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express. It's reminiscent of that type of thing. Not hokey. There wasn't anything hokey about it, and it's just two really great teams that understand how to do tag team wrestling. It was good for the soul.
So this was the kind of match where when you heard it being booked and you read about it, you already kind of knew who was going to win the match.
Right.
It was just one of those, okay. And then when you watch the match and you get caught up in the moment, and even though you've already told yourself this team is going to win because just dictate logic, you watch that match and you believe many, many times over that Aussie Open almost had it.
Yeah, and it was really fantastic. And like you said, the Aussie Open, if they stay together, they're going to be at an elite level in pro wrestling for a while, as long as they are together, really. I mean, we're barring injury, barring anything else, you hope you see this. I would love for this to be a rivalry for the ages, and it certainly has all that potential. So speaking of potential, though, Royal Quest, saw some people there that you don't get to see too often. Match with Shota Umino and Will Ospreay caught my eye, of course. Terrific match. Of course, Will Ospreay got the victory. Shota Umino reminds me, and it's not fair to compare anyone to Hiroshi Tanahashi. I'm not trying to do that.
Okay.
But as far as someone who can be a pure, shaking hands, kissing babies, babyface, and deliver an elite level match, I think this is the guy. I think, is he going to be one of the 10 best in history like Tanahashi is? Like I think Tanahashi is? Way too early to know anything like that about Shota Umino. But the sky is the limit with this guy as a babyface. He has that thing, whatever it is, where you just want to root for him. And he plays the underdog well. He plays the guy with all the heart in the world well. He reminded me of a young Tanahashi in that sense. And also, and I'm really sending him up the river with this one, a young Kenta Kobashi, in that he can lose with valor. He can lose valiantly in a way that just makes you love him more than even if he had gotten the win. There's something special here with him. And I was very impressed with this match with Ospreay. Of course, having a match with Will Ospreay, not having a good match with Will Ospreay, not the hardest thing in the world. Will's one of the best on earth, but boy, did he held up his end of the bargain. I just think there's all kinds of potential with this guy once he comes back home.
100% agree. Shota Umino has a lot of potential. There was something funny about this match, or the post match, that I feel like nobody has picked up on.
What's that?
And it's been frustrating me. So, Chris Charlton is criticizing Red Shoes about the fact that he may have potentially called the match too early from the 12-6 elbows. Because it was his son. Red Shoe's son is Shota Umino. And so Chris Charlton decides that he is going to question the integrity of Red Shoes. Did he call it too early? Was this a mistake? Was he clouded by Hinare getting his orbital bone cracked and all these other things, these supposed lapses in judgment? Okay, let's set the stage here. Red Shoes goes over, looks at his son, and checks on him briefly, and then walks away. The entire narrative is set as, did he call this match too early? Did he do all these things? They're trying to set the stage on here. Meanwhile, and it's been 2 or 3 minutes, Shota Umino hasn't moved in the middle of the ring. He's still dead. If you're telling me that maybe he was too cautious, I would disagree. The dude was out, knocked out. He called the match when he needed to, and you're making nothing out of a nothing burger. Thank
You
you.
know,
I'm
yeah, no.
sorry. I was like, what is happening here? He's dead. He called the match when the match. Chris, what are you doing here? What are you doing?
He does. I mean, the match told a good story, and Umino
Absolutely.
really sells well, and that was a lot of fun. Was not the only guy that impressed me, though, because on night 2, I think it's worth mentioning Yota Tsuji, who I hadn't seen since he went on excursion. I understand he's in Rev Pro. I don't get to see Rev Pro that much,
I love Yota
unfortunately.
Tsuji. I love him.
And he had a match against Ishii, and again, similar to having a match against Will Ospreay, having a good match with Ishii is something that if you are halfway competent, you can do. Yet, I did not feel at any point in this, Jeremy, that Yota Tsuji was being carried to a good match. I felt this was a dude who is absolutely capable, and I was very impressed. The guy did a Fosbury flop moonsault over the top rope at his size. This guy is really impressive. I was thrilled to see it because anytime you see these young lions go away, you don't know what you're going to get. And, in a history, we're going to talk about, the loss of a young lion we had recently. I did not know what I was going to see out of Yota Tsuji, but man, I loved what I did get to see.
Did he remind you of anybody?
Well, they mentioned it a few times. This is a new Ghetto. Except he could fly. Yeah, like he was jumping around. He was flying over the top rope.
They didn't say it, but he reminded me of Chris Jericho.
Jericho, really?
If you go look, and the way that he stalked the ring and with the long boys and the hair, he probably got about 40 pounds on peak Jericho, but he wrestles like Chris Jericho. Watch it again and think about Chris Jericho wrestling his matches. And this guy has studied Chris Jericho matches. I guarantee it. Everything about the way that he just moves around in the ring. He circles his opponent. He's in the right places. He jumps and he walks in the ring the same way that Jericho kind of walks bow-legged with his feet, like a little bit inward. Everything about it is just like this guy has watched a lot of Chris Jericho matches.
No, that's not the worst thing in the world to emulate.
No. I was like, you look like the second coming of Chris Jericho right now, and it is pretty amazing.
It's all very early for these guys, but we're just saying that, like after a couple of years of a lot of sameness, like we mentioned, the new blood coming into New Japan is exciting. And it seems to be very talented. It seems like it has a big upside. So we could be seeing one of those talent revolutions coming where in a couple of years, the top of the card looks very different and it could be very, very good stuff. So any other thoughts from Royal Quest? Now, there's a lot of information there. 2 really good shows, 2 really enthusiastic crowds. It had to be a fun weekend to participate in. Were there any other thoughts before we move on?
Honestly, it felt like by the time we got to Naito and Zack Saber Jr., it was almost an afterthought with all the other crazy stuff and great matches that we saw. Although Naito won, it feels like the business between Naito and Zack Saber Jr. has now been tabled for a while, and we're moving on to the next thing. The IWGP Heavyweight Championship coming up, which they'll probably be building in a number of shows. Rumble on 44th before November 5th. So
it's going to be a good match.
That is going to be a good match. But other than that, there was a bit of a disconnect. And I will talk about this. The way that they spoke about events happening retroactively and concurrently in the narrative and the announcements and like the commentary for Royal Quest 2 really took me out of it a little bit. So if they're going to coordinate that in the future, just having a sense of this is the period of time that it exists in, and we are not going to reference things that have already happened previous or prior, because it was jarring for me. And that I don't know if that's something that they can work on in the future, but I definitely noticed it, and I wish that it didn't happen.
It's a challenge, though, isn't it? When you're an announcer right there and you're doing all this stuff, it's like you're trying to remember, like, well, do we approach this as if we're because they told us they were going to be doing it in voiceover, so they told us before. So, it's a challenge to figure out. Okay, are we going to sit here and pretend like we're watching this live now, or are we going to? It's a difficult position to be in as an announcer right there, and they put him in a bad spot. I've complained enough. I'm not going to go into it again, but I hope that there aren't too many more like this where they have to wait a while
Yes.
to voice over something in demand there, because it is an awkward spot and it's a tough thing. Kelly and Charlton are the best team in wrestling as far as announcing goes, and by a fairly good margin.
Yes.
And that's with other good teams. It's not because there's no competition, but they're that good. That's a difficult position to be in, because how do you approach that? Because everyone watching, you also assume, also knows. So how do you really, do we pretend?
I never said that my criticism was fair. I just was being critical.
Well, no, but I agree with you. There were some awkward moments right there where like the Jazzy Gabbard Ava Green match, where they basically just said Jazzy Gabbard will be facing Kyrie before the match started, and then they had to kind of like say, well, they have to put aside the idea of facing Kyrie and kind of focus on Ava Green, and you could almost see the two of them looking at each other like, whoop, but
I did low-key
spot.
appreciate that they just threw in a women's wrestling angle for London in the middle of a New Japan show.
Yeah. Hey, you
got to try to show that there's many masters.
Yes, it really did. Yeah, that is true. So, anyway, if you get a chance, folks at home, you haven't watched Royal Quest nights 1 and 2 yet, even if you know the results, I promise you, there's some stuff there you're going to enjoy watching and seeing. So, definitely worth a look. So, moving on from that, we are going to look at some upcoming events real quick. This week, they're mostly house shows. We'll be back with another episode of Speaking of Strong Style before the real heavy duty stuff comes up. But we have a house show in Las Vegas at Sam's Town. That's the Autumn Action. That's coming up this Saturday. 3 matches announced for that one. Greg Sharp and Jacob Austin Young against Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaacs. So part of Team Filthy there. Yuya Uemura against Christopher Daniels, which will probably be pretty interesting. And then Rocky Romero against Shingo Takagi taking place. So Shingo coming over to America here. Also, by the way, separate from New Japan, Minoru Suzuki is touring North America this month too. So he's rolling around. So keep an eye on it.
I got a prediction of an angle alert on Yuya Uemura versus Christopher Daniels. There's no way that feud is ending anytime soon.
All right. There you go. So then, as far as New Japan back in Japan itself, they have house shows in Yamanashi, Iwate, Akita, and Aomori. Before Aomori, I'm probably mispronouncing that. I'm sorry, Aomori. Before they come back before we come back next week with another episode of this show. So we'll also be talking next week about cheering events in Korakuen Hall on the 26th and 27th. So we'll see that next round of the TV, the next first round matches of the TV title tournament in front of cheering crowds back at Korakuen. Again, those tournament matches: Toriano against the Great Okan, Ren Narita versus Tomohiro Ishii. I'm looking forward to that. And 0, this many matches listed for the 27th so far, because they're keeping things a mystery. Why? Because Rumble on 44th Street has a secret show as well on the 27th in New York City, and they don't want to eliminate any possibilities. There it is right there. Who is it going to be on the 27th? It's a mystery show. Won't know until the wrestlers get to the ring. The only thing we have listed for the Rumble itself on the 28th is Shingo against El Phantasmo. There are other things that we think are going to happen, but officially announced. Shingo against El Phantasmo in either a street fight or a last daddy standing Texas death match. And then Kazuchika Okada and Eddie Kingston against Jay White and Juice Robinson, an intriguing tag team match there, Jeremy.
We also have this match that has just been announced. The
something.
Aussie Open is going to have a 3-way with the Motor City Machine Guns and Kevin Knight and the DKC.
Oh, let's do that.
This was announced within the last day or so. So
nice.
A lot of people don't know about it, but there's a video on YouTube of them talking about the challenge, looking forward to it. And man, with the momentum behind them right now, hard to stop the Aussie Open.
Yeah, all right. I'm not going to complain about that one. That's a nice addition right there. So you mentioned Aussie Open doing double duty this week, not only on this show, but they were also on NJPW Strong. Why don't you tell us about that episode, Jeremy?
Oh, man, not quite as amazing as the one from the week before, but we had 3 matches.
Tough act to follow, to be fair.
I mean, when you decide that the first match in your show is going to be Doc Gallows versus Che Cabrera, whose nickname is Latino Meat,
choices were made.
In about a 5-minute match, you kind of took it down to a lighter gear to give the engine a bit of a rest. So that did lead toward what I would say is the match of the show, given everything that happened else on the show. Strong openweight tag team championship match. Aussie Open again defeated Team Filthy, which is the team of JR, Kratos, and Danny Limelight. Look, we've been beating the drum over and over and over again that Aussie Open is fantastic. JR, Kratos, and Danny Limelight are also tremendous. You don't typically see these two in a tag team together, but they've already gone through the West Coast Wrecking Crew, and Kratos deserves all the attention in the world. So these guys had 10, 15-minute match going hard. They even tried to get the Coriolis on Kratos, which they did not do. They did end up getting the Coriolis on Danny Limelight to win. It's not the best Aussie Open match you're going to see on New Japan Pro Wrestling this week. But if you can't get enough of the Aussie Open, I would strongly recommend making time for this match as well. And that led to the main event. Okay. I haven't been the biggest fan of the Fred Rosser reign in New Japan Strong. I have felt like there has been a disservice being done to him looking strong, even if it means going over established talent that you may not want to put him over. A match with Chris Dickinson isn't it. A feud with Chris Dickinson isn't it. The problem with this match is that it ended in a countout. This title match ended in a countout. And from all intents and purposes, it may be that is all that we see with this match against Chris Dickinson.
It's really interesting they didn't just beat him then, isn't it?
I know that they probably had plans to move forward and to establish this, but it never really felt like Chris Dickinson should have been the guy. And that has nothing to do with his off-screen, whatever issues and things that we are not really qualified to talk about, other than there is a contingent of people that felt like he should not be wrestling for New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what goes on there, and I'm not trying to say anything did or didn't happen, but yeah, there is that. But it does seem strange that if they're not going to use him, that they didn't just beat him right there. But maybe that was a later decision. Who knows? I
think it was a later decision. I was not into this match, regardless of Chris Dickinson. However,
yeah,
booking the champion in a count out, where the challenger thinks that they've won the title as a result, is a choice. The audience at the show did not care for this. Yes, Dickinson thought he won the title for a brief moment.
So it was Rosser who was counted out.
They were both counted out.
Oh, it was a double count out. Okay, I was going to say. So I thought
it was a double count out. They were both counted out for a brawl within 3 minutes of the match starting. It was all angle. And it was not what this needed to be. It was not what Rosser needed his title reign to include. And the whole thing is just disappointing in a way that, it's like you're passing time. You're waiting for something, and it feels abundantly clear that this is not main event stuff from New Japan Strong.
Yeah, they really aren't booking Rosser strong at all, even as champion, are they?
No.
Really? I mean,
No,
he's getting wins, but it just doesn't. It certainly feels different than when Tom Lawler was the champion and every match was kind of an event. That it just doesn't feel that way. And there's nothing. Rosser isn't bad, but it doesn't feel like they have like a strong champion at all.
He cuts a passionate promo, but he doesn't feel important.
Yeah, maybe book him a little strong, but I'm not brokenhearted about Dickinson being gone.
No, I've seen enough of Dickinson to know what he has to offer. Again, I'm not here to speculate on things I really don't know anything about, other than probably should get whatever his issues are settled before I see him wrestle again, and I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough. All right. So
that was strong.
so
Not a strong episode at all.
Okay. There you have it. So for history today, it's not going to be too long because unfortunately it's all about somebody whose life was a little bit cut short, but it's somebody who has had a presence in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and the context of his very, very short career I found really interesting, Jeremy. Of course, a lot of people have heard Katsuya Kitamura passed away this past week at the age of 36, which is just way too young to go. And he was a young lion with New Japan that made probably a bigger impact as a young lion than almost any young lion you're going to see, including some names that would become legendary over the years. There was just something about this dude. He was older than most young lions. He didn't get into pro wrestling until later, Katsuya Kitamura, and the way he got there was intriguing. It was a winding road that led him to New Japan Pro Wrestling, but most people felt like he was the best and had the highest ceiling of a batch of prospects, almost all of whom are big deals or about to be very big deals. He was considered the star of the group, and for various reasons just didn't quite happen. We're going to go over this here. Now, first of all, guy was a terrific wrestler, and I mean that as in terms of the amateur wrestling. He was a 3-time national champion, so this is a big-time dude. He was kind of lined up to go to the World Championship in the Olympics, except there was one problem: tested positive for steroids. So, big guy, and he was in the heavyweight divisions where Japanese wrestlers in the Olympics don't usually excel too well. He was a hopeful there at a heavier weight. You know, the Japanese women's wrestling program is very, very strong, and they have some excellent lighter weight wrestlers. But this guy was like a super heavyweight in that division right there. And but getting popped for steroids is going to get you banned for 2 years at the very least. So that was going to take him out of the 2012 Olympics, and that was just kind of ended his amateur career. Took him a couple more years to kind of find his way to pro wrestling. Once he got into pro wrestling, they started training him in the dojo, and he had his very first match on February 25th back in 2016. And so he started in 2015. And normally you are, seen around ringside, but not in the ring for quite a long time. And there's some that never get there. As it turns out, Kitamura was kind of fast tracked, and he was, like I said, he was older than most. They might have been trying to capitalize on that, but you could not deny that this guy had something. So his first one was February 25th, 2016 at Shinjuku Face Event Hall. It's a little event hall in Shinjuku. It's on the 7th floor of a building, just like Korakuen Hall's on the 5th floor of a building. You know, there's not a lot of places to go except up in Tokyo. So even music halls and wrestling venues are on the 5th and 7th floors of these places. It's a little building that holds about 600 and things. Shinjuku Face is what it's called. And they had these Lionsgate projects, and you can find them on New Japan World, that they were little showcases for the Young Lion program. So you would see these guys wrestling each other instead of just, losing in prelim matches on regular cards. He had a 3-minute exhibition match. That was his first match against Tomoyuki Oka, who is now the Great Okan. So that was his very first thing, was a 3-minute exhibition. Now, needless to say, that one went to a time limit draw. Didn't have a fall on that one. Here's the context I was talking about. I'm going to read you some of the names that appeared on this Young Lion showcase, Matt. And there were a lot of Noah names on this card, too. So they were working with Noah. And let's see. So I mentioned that was the exhibition to start off with, Kitamura against Oka. You also had Hirai Kawato losing on this one to Hitoshi Kumano, who was a Noah wrestler. Ryusuke Taguchi actually defeated Kaito Kitamiya on that show in 6 minutes and 20 seconds. Now, Kitamiya isn't really known to people who only follow New Japan, but he is a 2-time Noah GHC champion and won their N1 tournament, which is their G1 tournament this year. Huge star, one of the biggest stars in Noah. He was on that card. Taiji Ishimori defeated David Finley. Early in his career. Here's one. Wow. Yoshinari Ogawa. Now, this is a guy I watched back in my tape trading days in the early 90s, All Japan. He went all the way through that, and then moved on to Noah. He is still wrestling. He's still good. This guy's just I don't know how in the world. In 8 minutes and 50 seconds, Yoshinari Ogawa defeated Jay White on that show. There you go.
That would never happen now.
Never happen now. This one is just before Jay, like a month or two before Jay went on excursion to ROH. So very close to him going off on an excursion right there. And it's funny to read Jay White's results from this period because he's like teaming with all the Hantai guys and being the guy that does the job. And he was also the guy that would always hold the ropes for the heel Tetsuya Naito, and Naito would kick the ropes into his nuts. So he got racked a lot back then. It was tough one for Jay. Other names on that one. Let's see. Katsuhiko Nakajima defeated Juice Robinson. So that was on his very first show. There were all these guys there. And a few other Noah names on there, but that was in February 25th. Didn't appear again on a show until September 1st of that year, which was the Lionsgate 3 show. So they would have these every other month or so, every 3 months. And on the third one, he and Oka had another exhibition. This one in 5 minutes, moving up in the world, and also a draw right there. And it was an exhibition. The other names that I mentioned were on there too. Kawato was there. Finley was there. I mentioned Jay White was on excursion, so he was not. But Aaron Hinare was on that one and lost to Quiet Storm in 6 minutes and 2 seconds. So that's the kind of company that he was in, though. This is a strong class of young wrestlers. We're talking people that have headlined Tokyo Domes, people that have headlined and gone to deep into the G1 story. So through all this, he began wrestling regularly in March of 2017. So he had those 2 exhibition matches, February, September. By March of the following year, he's a regular again. He's part of that young lion class of Kawato, Oka, Shota Umino was in that group. Very young, early days of Ren Narita. And they had a Young Lion Cup, which is something they haven't done in a little while, but they had a little tournament there. And they put Kitamura over in that, over Kawato, over Oka, over Shota Umino, over Ren Narita. He did so well that even though he was basically jobbing on these matches over and over again, and his record was like 17-108 that year, he was the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Rookie of the Year. That's how he was thought of. Young Lion Cup winner. And they haven't done that Young Lion Cup since, by the way, I don't think. They might have done a cup, but he was a bodybuilder, first of all. He was much larger than most young lions are, who are usually a little smaller or haven't filled out yet. Well, he was a full-grown man. He was a grown-ass man. He was a grown-ass man. He had great fire. I mean, he just had that thing. He'd hit a move, and he would pose, and he would, like, flex, and and there was something. He had all those intangibles, Jeremy, and this guy he was going to be a star. He even appeared in the Wrestle Kingdom Rambo. Their version of the little Royal Rumble match they have on the pre-show. So this guy's Rookie of the Year, Young Lion Cup winner. They put him in the Wrestle Kingdom card when a lot of those guys are just standing there doing this thing, ushering people up aisles. That he was going to be a big star. They even did something with him they haven't done since. They did a trial series. This was a series of singles matches on New Japan shows where he would wrestle singles matches with main roster people. So, and it was a series of matches. Each one was a different guy. And the whole idea was to see his improvement. So this is the kind of showcase he was getting. He wasn't just in a tag team match on the first match of the show. He did this trial series, and this was part of these cards. The people he wrestled, Jay White, when Jay was still with Chaos. So now he's back from his Ring of Honor excursion, and he's Switchblade Jay White, and he was undermining Chaos the whole time. All that was still happening. Michael Elgin, Juice Robinson, Hiroshi Tenzan, Nakanishi, Yuji Nagata, having these singles matches with these guys. Now, he lost them all, but the whole point was that each one he would get a little bit closer, almost get that win. That's the story they were telling with him. And that was in very early of 2018. On March 4th, 2018, in Tsukuba, he teamed with Nakanishi in a loss to Tomohiro Ishii and Toru Yano. Unfortunately, he suffered a serious concussion. Put him on the shelf for quite a while. As he recovered, he had a scooter accident that badly damaged his leg. And he never came back. That was his last match. That March 4th, 2018, within a couple of months of him winning that Young Lion Cup, being at Wrestle Kingdom, and then having that series of singles matches that were featured on cards, that was his final match. He never really did come back from that. And, you know, it was one of those things where in about a year later, like in January of 2019, there was just a little release that, you know, Kitamura had left New Japan Pro Wrestling. And everyone was like, oh, what? Oh, my God. It just never happened for him after that. And he actually ended up getting into MMA. He fought in a Ryzen card in 2021. He lost to Bobby Olagun in a match there, just rear naked choke in the second round. So he tried his hand at MMA, but only had the one fight. And, you know, just this past year, he just wasn't feeling well, realized something was wrong, called an ambulance for himself. But whatever had happened, and we don't know, that hasn't been publicly revealed, but it was too late. But in a class that had guys like Jay and Juice and Finley and Okan, Great Okan, Shota Umino, Master Wato, and now Ren Narita, who's getting this big push, this was the guy. I wanted to mention one other thing. Wrestling Observer Rookie of the Year I mentioned. Number 2 in that voting. I've got the top 3 right here.
Okay.
Number 2 was Microman. Do you know what a Microman is?
No.
Now this guy works in Mexico. He is a masked midget wrestler in Mexico. He's a mini.
Okay.
Now, stay with me on this because
I'm here.
Microman, I don't know how else to say this. He's even short for a midget. Even for a mini, he's really small. He's really short. He's not small, excuse me. He's really short, but he's a bodybuilder. And it's to the point where he has to like almost jump up to get to the bottom rope to bounce off of it and things.
I'm kind of upset that he's not called Micro Manny.
Yeah, but if you watch him, he's kind of amazing. He does some incredible things, and the way he climbs the ropes it's like he always gets over and things. So I understand why he was second. But here was who was third in Rookie of the Year that year, Bianca freaking Belair. That was who finished behind Kitamura and Microman, Bianca Belair, and I don't know.
They got that one wrong that year. They got it wrong.
Not sure what all she's done other than headline WrestleMania. So there you go.
But I think she has potential in front of her. I don't know if she'll ever reach her true ceiling.
Yeah, who knows?
In this business, but I don't know. She's a young up and comer. We'll see what she got in front of her.
if only she could get a prominent spot with a major company. Huh? That's it. No, yeah. So that was it. But I bring all this up just to say 36 is way too young for anyone to go. But you hear people say all the time that, he was a great star in the making. And some of that stuff sometimes is a little bit of pumping up the guy after he's passed and maybe making him a little bit better. Mm-hmm. Kitamura was absolutely a future megastar in the business. And it's just strange that it went wrong. And it's even sadder that he passed away so young. So it's a real what could have been.
Everything went wrong for him.
Yeah. And it was, this was a guy who just had it, whatever it is, and the build and the size and the fire. It's just hard to believe that we're not seeing him headlining now. And it's very strange and it's very sad. Katsuya Kitamura passed away age of 36 this past week.
Way too sudden, caught us all off guard.
Yeah,
I hate that this is going to be the transition of something else catching us all off guard, but I'm going to ask you about your thoughts on one last thing before we take it home.
Yeah, well, I was looking forward to this, but now, Jeremy, after the last couple of days, it's really up in the air if this thing is even going to happen now, because we talked about how it appeared that Anderson was going to be allowed to come back and work that match, drop that title, and then this was announced. So we have not heard anything from New Japan yet, and usually they are on top of these things, but those two matches that we just showed you right there are supposed to take place on the same day. I
On
have a
different
feeling
continents.
on different, two different continents. So talk about getting double booked. What are your thoughts? It looks like maybe what we were hoping was this different kind of era with WWE where they would allow guys to finish up. We might have just, maybe things aren't as different as we were hoping.
Steven, I don't think this match happens in New Japan, and I think that New Japan may need to reassess how it works with talent and locking them down for longer periods of time. Free agency is not the way to go anymore, and this also puts into serious doubt my concerns that Jonah is long-term and that he could up and go at any given time. Carl Anderson with the never open weight title being booked for another show at another company when he should be defending that title is one thing. I will say if you did the same thing with Jonah, it would be monumentally worse. And that says a lot about Carl Anderson. That says a lot about Jonah / Bronson Reed. This whole thing probably never should have happened, but it has. And I think WWE has the upper hand.
It's one of those things where since AEW came around, almost everyone was locked into a contract with somebody. And there was an arms race, basically with wrestlers. And there are very, very few decent free agents out there. I'm not going to say none, so don't write in and just say, what about this? There are some good ones. But for a company like New Japan to just kind of go on the handshake deal, which I respect, but in this environment, the idea that you go over there and put a title on somebody without having them locked down like that I think that they're just going to have to change that. Like you said, I don't think it's a viable practice going forward to lose Anderson. It's frustrating because he's had such a history with New Japan, but losing Jonah would be a very big deal. And you gotta they might not want to, but you're going to have to invest in these guys. And I think you're just going to have to put them under contract to make sure that stuff like this doesn't happen. You just can't let it go like that. And you got to bring in foreign people. That you got to keep the talent fresh. But there has to be some sort of longer term agreement than, we'll see you in 3 months, hopefully, and hope they don't get a call from Paul. I mean,
it's 100% a foolhardy strategy. Guys like Juice Robinson might also fall under this umbrella right now. They just need to make sure that if they're committed, if they commit to these guys, they have to put it to pen to paper.
So far, again, no announcements formally made about November 5th about that match being off, but it's not looking good for it at all. And perhaps the delay is just New Japan figuring out who's going to replace Anderson on that card and what they're going to do with that never open weight title.
For a brief moment on Royal Quest 2, I got my dream of Gallows versus Hikuleo slugging it out, but I really don't think it's happening at Wrestle Kingdom anymore. And this is the final time I will mention my dream match that will not happen this year. Gallows versus Hikuleo for a title at Wrestle Kingdom 2023. Not going to happen.
No, be still my beating heart. I say I'm going to miss the Doc Gallows Toriano Iron Man match. Really, that was the one I was most looking for.
Opportunities missed just because you couldn't get your house in order.
So with that, anything else to add, Jeremy, or do you want to go ahead right into your socials?
Jer Finestone on Twitter. Go to Fight Game Media on YouTube, on Patreon, anywhere else that you see Fight Game Media. Follow us, click, subscribe. We like you to watch, please.
And don't forget about that Patreon with Fight Game Media. Again, it's impossible to cover everything in the world of wrestling and to watch everything, but with the various shows, podcasts, the YouTube feed, the Patreon, it's a way to get it in the very digestible bits, and there are experts on boxing, wrestling, MMA, everything on Patreon. $5 a month. It's the easiest thing.
Coffee.
Price of a cup of coffee, and you can do it right there. So I'm at Stephen Conway 88. It's right there at the bottom of the screen. On Twitter, I also have Ringside Replay, my history website. And with that, if there's nothing else to add, we will wrap things up for this week. We'll be back to cover more of the house show results. We're going to pick up on some of the previews of the big shows that are coming up, and there are plenty of them coming. It's going to be an exciting fall in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and we're going to be here each week to talk about it with you. So for Jeremy Finestone, I am Stephen Conway. Thank you for watching Speaking of Strong Style, and we will see you again very soon.
Going to be a November to remember.